Hello, welcome to the GTHub podcast once again. Today is just going to be me and Rob, but more importantly, that's because one of us has some expertise in the upcoming preview for the Formula E season. Considering Rob was at testing, so he should actually know a thing or two about the cars and teams. So, with that said, I believe we had this laid out with in order of last year's spots, right?
Yes, we did. It was based off of the team's standings, I believe, which is why Porsche are absolutely last because they weren't in Formula E last year, and Mercedes are in the position which HWA were. And hi, everyone. Yes, it's new microphone this time as well.
Yes, you and your new microphone.
Yes. New microphone and trying to cover half a grid that looks nearly identical from a long distance away.
Well, liveries being the same, that's not entirely something new to any series, so yeah.
Yes. When we were in the production stages of this, there was the most impassioned rant I have ever heard, and it was absolutely beautiful, quite frankly.
Well, they shouldn't make things similar, so I can't see them, but there you go. When you're an Audi and you're orange and red, then there's just slight confusion happening. So
it's orange. At least that's what they said in the press release. I got
it's e-tron orange, but it's actually just red orange with electricity in it.
Having seen it in person, it's definitely orange.
It's red. I don't care.
It's frickin' orange.
Well, fine, whatever. I don't care. We'll very much go to something that's not orange and start with the gold car, the only one that you can actually find out in a crowded field.
Yes.
And that would be the DS2 Cheetah Formula E team.
Yes, they have won the last two drivers' titles with Jean-Eric Vergne, except he doesn't have Andre Lotterer alongside him. He's actually got Antonio Felix da Costa in the other car, and they set some. Yeah, they were pretty decent in testing. Of course, not that testing is actually all that accurate in Formula E, because as you can tell from the photo, they're at Valencia.
Well, I mean, they were testing at Valencia, Rob, so yeah, that would make sense.
Yes, I know they were testing at Valencia. It's what it says on my press pass that's on my desk.
Imagine having.
Also, the font choice was not my idea. Just saying.
Well, the defending team's champions have a new car with the DSE Tense FE20, which is a really long name, but it's not the longest name, so more on that one to come.
Yes.
Like Rob mentioned, we had a driver change in Antonio Felix Acosta, moving over from BMW for the number 13 car. Jev stays on in the 25. Not much change technically for the cars. Slight tweaks to the motors, I believe, and the inverters, but
the usual constant software updates and just trying to get the best out of the package, really. Yeah,
usual tweaks here and there. James Rossiter stays on as the test and reserve driver as well, and he'll also be the doing sim and track testing for them. So no change there either. However, all this change doesn't seem to have fared very well at Saudi Arabia for them.
Yes, quite an interesting weekend, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, I mean, quite how Vergne managed to qualify 11th on Saturday is still incredible because given how much the track had rubbered in between Friday and Saturday after his accident in practice, he did a really good job to qualify as high as he did initially before the grid penalty for the battery change.
And that was on the one of the first of many mistakes for that one. So, yeah.
Yes. And he also retired from the first race on the Friday because of a steering issue, which meant that Formula E car doesn't have power steering, but there was something, I think something had gone in it was something in the steering system that had gone.
I believe they had said it was a locked steering rack, if I remember.
And I think quite a few people were impressed that Jev had actually managed to even get that thing back to the pits.
And yeah, actually, amazingly so. But thankfully for him, it was a very straight pit lane. So
yeah, thankfully indeed. Whereas he did end up having to drive back with a bit of damage after his off on Saturday morning in practice.
Yeah, well, that was race 1, which was horrible for them. Race 2, however, they actually scored points, but it wasn't through pace, actually. That was a mess of everyone's making, but more on that later.
More on the absolute joy that was the list of what had happened to be dished out after the second race.
And moving on from that one, we go to your favorite liveried car, Rob. That being the Audi Sport Abt Schaeffler car.
Yes, with a photo that was taken on an iPhone from the press room balcony by yours truly.
And, well, clearly red-orange, but Audi think it's whatever.
It's got a nice bit of green on it to differentiate from the other cars with nearly the same sort of colour palette. And it's got a handy little bit of blue from Julius Baer as well. So that was a nice touch, I thought. It's the same driver lineup. Again, Lucas Di Grassi and Daniel Abt. I think they're still the only unchanged driver lineup in Formula E history.
Well, that's arguable considering I think Daniel Abt has long outstayed his usefulness there. So there you go.
That's a controversial opinion.
I don't think it's a controversial opinion. He did well last season, but it took him 5 seasons to get there. So yeah,
he won his first race in season 4.
Yeah,
and then he won his first race again in season 4, except this time he wasn't disqualified.
It's just not as consistent as Di Grassi is. And
I mean, to be fair, Di Grassi was the series test driver originally.
Well, yeah, but still. Di Grassi's actually a Audi factory driver. Abt is just there because, well, he's got the family name.
And he's also an Audi factory driver.
Allegedly.
So they weren't the quickest in testing. In fact, the difference between both drivers was actually 0.02 of a second, which is why the average of their best laps is only 1,000th slower than their best lap.
Yes.
Yes.
Not much change on the Audi e-tron FE06 either, so there's that. Aside from a livery change, I actually don't know what they tweaked in the powertrain, in fairness.
Probably just the usual stuff.
The usual stuff, he says.
Yes.
Let's see here. There was change, however, behind the scenes though, because they have a new sim driver for Audi, and that being Mattia Drudi, who's a GT3 driver for Audi.
Yes.
So there's that. And next we go to customer Audis.
Ah, yes. Customer Audis, who also represent Audi in the Formula E Bundesliga, as we like to call it.
I think that's a new one to me. I think you mean as you like to call it, because I've never called it that.
Yes, das Formel E Bundesliga, yeah.
And you can check Rob's terrible German off the bingo card.
I was just about to say that, damn you. Yes, the unchanged driver lineup of Sam Bird and Audi factory driver Robin Freins.
It's just weird. I see him more of a BMW driver.
Ooh, that's interesting. I still see Sam Bird as more of a Ferrari driver, but...
Well, I meant Freins, not Bird.
Yeah. More on why... more on the joys that is the calendar later on.
Oh, here we go.
Yes. Again, another team who
didn't change anything.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, I mean, it's evident they work quicker than the factory Audis in testing. So
yes, and they clearly have a package that can be described as rather competitive as well.
Well, I mean, considering that Sam Bird won the first race of the weekend and Robin Frins was fifth, so
yeah. They were good.
Well, unfortunately, that luck did not last for the next race because neither one of them finished.
No, both ended up in barriers.
Yes, barriers, he says diplomatically.
Yes.
And now we move to a actual team with change. Well, actually, nothing changing driver-wise, but all change on the technical front.
Yes, and not through choice either.
Yes, you would know more about the changes to the Nissan EDAM's Nissan IMO2.
Yes, so the driver lineup hasn't changed. It's still Oliver Rowland and Sebastian Buemi. But what has changed is the fact that they're only running one motor instead of two. And as I mentioned, this wasn't because they wanted to, it's because they were forced into doing it because their twin motor design got banned.
Yes. Although I argue it shouldn't be banned if they didn't actually win anything with said banned motor system.
Yes.
If it's a competitive advantage and you don't win with a competitive advantage, it's not an advantage. Just saying.
It was actually an advantage, though. Coming out of corners,
won one race.
I think coming out of corners, the Nissan was noticeably better than everything else last season.
Right.
So there was, I think, actually a little bit of an advantage they had with the twin motor.
It may have been slight, but they only won one race, so can't have been
that's because of how competitive it was last season.
Well, there you go then. Exactly my point.
And to be fair, Roland did do a pretty good job as well, especially given that he only had 1 day of testing.
I was going to say he had one lap.
Year. Yeah. So he did a very, very good job. And Buemi, he's a former series champion. He knows how to drive a Formula E car. Yeah, they were on the pace in testing. They were on the pace in Adria as well. So yeah.
Well, one of them was.
They were still on the pace.
One of them was. That would be that would be the second car, arguably, because
Yes.
Buemi's the first one.
Although I still maintain that actually Buemi would have finished in the points in the second race as well.
Oh, right. He was a casualty of the mass penalty system that happened.
The Oprah Winfrey penalty system, i.e., you get a penalty, 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 everyone gets a penalty.
Right.
And unless you've already crashed out of the race or didn't start due to technical issues.
Yeah.
Yes. So Buemi would definitely have actually scored.
Yeah, he would have scored what? He was 8th, I think? 7th?
I've just had a look back at the classification, and he was 26.2. He would have finished behind Roland in 6th.
Oh, okay. So he would have had decent points then. All right.
Yeah, he would have had 8 points. Except he didn't because he got penalised 10 seconds.
Yes. Well, not the only one either.
No, not really.
No, never mind.
God, that document is such a mess.
We'll see more of that later. But now we must move to another German team.
Yes, another team in the Bundesliga.
Team. That being the BMW I Andretti Motorsports entry with the BMW IFE.20.
Yes,
so,
and if anyone's wondering why I've spelt Maximilian Gunther's name the way I've spelt it, it's because I don't have umlauts on my keyboard, so hence why I spelt it with UE, as that's also part of the style guide for Just Electric as well. So, yeah.
Very nice plug there you got. Good job.
Yes, thank you. Yes, just -electric.org.
You're being criticized in the chat now for
yes,
saying
I'm being criticized in the chat because I don't have any umlauts on my keyboard.
Yes, you are. Serves you right.
Yes, and what googling it was on Friday morning, and I'd literally just woken up in time for practice 1. And well, anyone who was in the voice chat Friday morning around about 4 o'clock UK time would know that I was still asleep, kind of.
And you're not going to get any credit or any sympathy from the Germans on this. So there you go. Just move on, Rob. You're done.
Yes.
We have change on this slide as well, considering Alexander Sims.
What was it? What, Germans?
Yes, I stick by that.
Das ist nein Deutscher. Österreich, ja. Deutschland's nein.
No. Felix knows. He knows. This is between me and Felix. He knows. Anyway, we still have Alexander Sims at BMW in the 27. In the 28, we have the new arrival of your favorite driver.
Maximilian Gunther.
Yes, your favorite. Why is he your favorite driver, though?
Meine favorite? Nein.
Yeah.
I don't have any favourite drivers because as a journalist, I don't want to have any bias creep into my work.
Very, very much a cop-out answer, but good job.
Yes, very trying to be professional.
Yeah. Whatever you say, Rob. Anyway, they were the fastest on 1 lap pace, which is evident in qualifying because they won all the poles.
Yes. Sims now being the first driver in Formula E history to have 3 pole positions in a row.
And he'll probably get the next one.
Assuming the next race actually happens.
More on that one later, yeah.
Yes, but, more on. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one to try and explain.
We
dear.
had the BMWs showing 1 lap pace, but however, in the race pace, they actually were a bit behind.
Well, on Friday.
Well, I mean, on Saturday as well, considering Sims actually won because he was ahead of everyone else crashing.
Which is a useful position to be in.
Exactly.
It's a very useful position. And also, Sims did channel his inner DS2 Cheetah during qualifying as well, with the mother and father of all drifts.
And he actually bothered to do that correctly, unlike
Antonio Felix da Costa, his ex-teammate.
Oddly enough, I was going to say his other teammate. Yeah.
Yes. And he lost 0.2 of a second, but he was already 0.3 up after the second sector. To be fair, both of his qualifying laps were quite something to watch.
They weren't exactly clean, but they were fast. So that's all that matters.
They were incredibly fast. Yes.
It was another tale of dichotomies here with the teammates, because Sims was scoring points and Gunther was not. So there you go.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, Gunther did initially come second.
Well,
on
initially
Saturday.
Doesn't count. If
Exactly.
It's disqualified.
No, he was not disqualified. He was one of the many drivers who breathed and ended up getting a penalty. Although in this case, it was actually for overtaking before the safety car had cleared off, because everybody forgot the safety car.
Being a very naughty driver, yes. Sims was 8th in the first race, and he won the second race. And Gunther was 18th and 11th after his penalty in the second. So, yeah.
Yes.
Now we move to a colorful entry that looks almost like any other entry on the grid. So, yay!
Oh, I'm trying to guess which one this is, and I'm not 100% sure. Oh, it's Mahindra.
The orangest thing that ever oranged, the Mahindra entry.
It's red, not orange.
I'm not having this discussion with you.
Damn. See, Felix agrees. It is red.
Or as he says, read. Anyway.
It's red.
It's the Mahindra Racing M6 Electro. I think that's the best. They have the best named car on the grid. By far. Should still be Car-Emic Carface, but there you go.
Yes, and only in Britain would we have a poll to name a research vessel, and the number one answer be Boaty McBoatface. Yep. Only here would that happen. Yeah, they were mighty quick in testing. Jerome D'Ambrosio and Pascal Wehrlein back for another season.
Yes.
Yes.
This is very much stability on the driver front. Nick Heidfeld still is their test and reserve driver alongside
Sam de Jong, I believe it is, from memory.
Yes, he is their simulator and driver development role, but they've also added someone to their sim and development program. This being someone you would probably actually know more of than I would.
Who is this person?
One Rudy Van Buren.
Rudy Van Buren, yes, the Dutch driver who started out playing computer games and was actually quite good at them, to the point that he won the McLaren World's Fastest Gamer competition and ended up being their simulator driver for a year. And then after that, made his Porsche Super Cup debut earlier this year, and yeah, now works for Mahindra, as does a friend of mine, funnily enough, from an F1 forum I was on back in the day. Yes, having contacts within. Yes, guy in question is an engineer for the team.
Well, he would know where all the technical changes happen, because of all the teams on the grid, this probably had arguably the most change behind the scenes, considering they poached the team manager from DS2 Cheetah, that being David Clark, to join them.
Yes.
Paul Willett is their new chief mechanic. Making sure all the bolts and things come together correctly. And also, if you notice and you look very closely on the car, it's got more blue on it, courtesy of a new partner.
Yes, ZF.
A rather gigantic partnership, that.
Yes, which is why they launched their car at Hockenheim at the DTM finale, because a lot of the German Formula E press, I think, also cover a fair bit of DTM as well.
I wonder why that is.
Yes, because in fact, I was actually chatting to a good friend of mine about this on the phone the afternoon before they launched the car. So yeah, that's how I know that.
Mm-hmm.
This is Toby from eformel.de. Probably the best German language Formula E coverage you'll find. Quite easily the best as well.
You're just going to do your best to get in every single plug for all your friends, aren't you?
Maybe
yes,
not.
You are. I knew it.
There will be more plugs later.
Anyway, they launched the car at Hockenheim, like Rob says. ZF Group is their new sponsor, alongside their commitment to be a new long-term technical partner for the team, meaning they will develop the chassis, shock absorbers, and all the engineering services, because that is another change for that team. Considering the old management group they had there for all technical things has moved to another team. But more on that one later.
Yes.
And alongside ZF Engineering, they are also already working on the 2020-21 powertrain. So there's that.
Very intriguing, yes.
As it comes to race results, however, though, not a stellar weekend for them.
Well, the second race, they only had Pascal Wehrlein.
Well, I mean, that kind of leads to my point. Not a stellar weekend for them, considering D'Ambrosio was the only one to score points.
In the first race.
In the first race, and that was only 2.
Yes, and in the second race, he didn't actually start because of a mechanical issue on the grid.
Not a very good omen, that one, when you can't even start the race. Yes. And considering D'Ambrosio didn't start the first one, D'Ambrosio was 9th on race 1, Wehrlein was 11th in race 2, another victim of one of the penalties. And like Rob mentioned, D'Ambrosio didn't start race 2, while Wehrlein was 15th. So, yeah. They left the weekend with 2 points. So, not a good one for them at. However, we go to another team that actually continues this pattern of not having the best results, and that being the Jag.
Oh, Jaguar, yes. Yes, I actually was one of the first to see the Jaguar I-Type 4 in the flesh.
Yes.
As I was very, very kindly invited to their launch event. And the pace was there in testing, to be fair, especially with Mitch Evans, as James Collado was still getting used to the nuances of the Formula E car.
Yes, well, he wasn't that bad, actually, James Collado, considering he scored them all their points in race 2, so...
Yes.
But speaking of change, we have the new I-Type 4 that features a new motor and inverter, refreshed rear suspension and dampers, an all-new vehicle control module, and alongside all that newness in technical things, we have new partners on the car with 3 big names, actually. That being Castrol, Lego, and Scalextric, who who are new to the team, and Castrol will be using their partnership for something called their new e-fluids.
E-fluids, yes.
I don't know what any of that means, but there you go. Apparently there's something called an e-fluid.
Yes, and I'm not enough of an engineer, sadly. Although one would think that e-fluids would be used for some kind of cooling purposes, I would have thought. Potentially.
Friction cooling, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was all the change there.
And to be fair, Evans did score fastest lap in the first race.
Yes, he did. So he scored more points.
I say fastest lap. It was the fastest lap was actually set by Daniel Abt, but since Abt retired, it was Evans who had set the next fastest lap, and thus he got the bonus point for it.
Well,
he was in the top 10.
He still got the bonus. There you go.
Yes.
Mitch Evans is a carryover for this, and the number 20, James Collado in the 51, oddly enough using his Ferrari WEC number, so that's interesting.
Yes.
Collado being a replacement for Mitch Evans, or not Mitch Evans.
Alex Lynn /
Alex
Nelson
Lynn,
PK.
yes, sorry. Although, oddly enough, Lynn is rumored to be their test and reserve driver, so I don't know how that shakes out. Although I don't know how he's supposed to do that if he's an Aston factory driver. So
yes, and given that, well, they're going to need another driver later on in the season when the inevitable calendar clash happens as well.
Yeah, and more on that one later. So Evans got 10th, so he scored a point and a bonus point for having the fastest lap.
Actually, there was one. Sorry?
No, I said that was race 1.
Yeah, I was saying, because there was another thing that was quite interesting to note during the launch. So they did a video highlighting last season, and what they did is the first part of the video mainly focused solely on Mitch Evans,
right?
And then it was only after, I think they mentioned PK like once or something, and then after PK had been dropped from the team, which was after Sanya. Then they started mentioning the second car, which was Alex Lynn's car.
Interesting.
Which leads me to think that the split between PK and Jaguar might potentially have been possibly not the most amicable. This is me trying to put 2 and 2 together and inevitably making 5.
Possibly, yeah.
Yes.
But maybe you have something there. Who knows? We'll see.
Yes.
But Mitch Evans was 10th, and James Collado was 16th in race 1. Race 2 had Mitch Evans not scoring any points in 18th. And that was down to, I think, accident, if I'm remembering.
Yes, an accident with Sam Bird.
Yes, that's right. Sam Bird and him crashed together, and James Collado ended up salvaging points for them in 7th. So, as a whole, they had a pretty good weekend. Both drivers and the team as well. And now we move on to, well, you want to talk about change. This team literally did changing right up to the minute they arrived in Saudi Arabia.
Gosh.
Yes. They changed their name, they changed their livery, they changed pretty much everything. So,
apart from the driver lineup.
Well, I'm surprised they didn't do that on site as well. They're like, you know how we signed these guys? Nah, just gotta change everything. And
would that be Rocket Venturi Racing by any chance? Oh, yes, here it is.
Oh, you gave away the big change there in the title.
The livery that was unveiled about 7 o'clock UK time in the morning, which is, I can understand why for the local time at the circuit, but it's also the time where most of the UK-based journalists are actually waking up and heading off to work. So, yes.
Yeah, well, the logo and the name and the livery and the fire suits and everything about this entire slide tells you that everything has changed, because originally it was a black, or no, not black, it was gray and white testing livery.
Yes, a grey and white testing livery, which meant some fairly last-minute editing to the slide in order to remove the photo which I had taken and replace it with, yes, the photo of Susie Wolf, Edo Mortara, Felipe Massa, and the newly painted car.
More like the newly cloned livery of them, but yeah.
It looks different to the other black, white, and red liveries.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. Anyway, we have Rocket Venturi Racing, and we have, as part of this new renamed lineup, a 3-year deal with the Rocket brand that will see them promote a new venture for the for the entire organization called Rocket Cities. Yeah, I don't know either, but that's what they're promoting.
Yeah. What you said. Rocket Cities, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, cool. Moving past the naming scheme that has changed, the driver lineup still remains Felipe Massa in the 19 and Eduardo Matara in the number 48. However, there is a... Oh, sorry.
So I was going to say, they got a win last year as well with Mortara. Massa got a podium in Monaco.
Well, that was also with their own device, but there you go.
Yes.
Now we have a massive change, considering it's just a customer team.
Yes. But, as we may or may not have found out, that customer package of theirs is rather handy indeed.
We'll get to that pace in a minute, but yes. Rocket Venturi Racing is now a customer effort of Mercedes-Benz. As such, they will run the customer Mercedes-Benz EQ Silver Arrow 01, which is an entirely long name for no reason. But with the customer effort, they will have powertrains consisting of cooling systems, rear frames, rear suspension, dampers, software, onboard electronics, wiring looms, and the powertrains itself with the inverter, motor, rear axle components, and energy software, or energy management software. So, yay, everything is a customer. There you go.
Yes.
And they also kept their test and reserve drivers, which are Norman Nato and Arthur Leclerc. So yes. Formula E also has its own version of It Is I, Leclerc.
Ah, yes. Anyone above a certain age will get the reference.
Well, I mean, all I got to do is listen to Midweek Motorsport. But
yes, yeah. Midweek Motorsport on radiolemans.com.
There you go. Boom. Did your plugging for you.
Yes, absolutely.
But
the world's
like
longest running motorsport magazine show, I should add as well.
As Rob was alluding to, the Mercedes actually has pace. However, not in the hands of Felipe Massa, it would seem.
But in the hands of Edo Mortara, who, let's face it, is a bit of a specialist on street circuits, as his former Macau shows.
Yeah, well, funny how the factory Mercedes driver does very well in the Mercedes.
In fact, he was actually one of the drivers, along with Stoffel Vandoorne, who did the development work for Mercedes on the powertrain, I believe.
Yes, that he did.
So he's probably got a bit more mileage underneath him than what Felipe had. So
Felipe, baby, yeah.
Stay cool.
Mortada was 7th and 4th in his finishes, while Massa was 12th and 17th. So a good points haul for Venturi and their new world order. Susie Wolf now being the underling to the Mercedes team. And speaking of Mercedes, we have the fathership, or mothership, whatever you want to call it, entry in the parental unit. There you go.
Yes.
In Mercedes-Benz EQ Formula E team, which is also really long, but there you go.
Yes, with the Mercedes-Benz EQ Silver Arrows 01.
Just stupidly long for no reason.
But I can confirm they are very good.
Almost as if using a year to develop your powertrains is a good idea.
Yes.
Although you wouldn't know it by them sandbagging and testing.
Yeah. Yes.
No, you were going to say allegedly, but there's no alleged sandbagging. There is actual sandbagging happening.
Yes. Although I must say, they did do a very, very good job of re-engineering my microphone in the pit, around the back of the pits in Valencia.
Oh yes, that story. It tells you how good they are with electronics, really.
Yes, it was possibly the single most. To be fair, the look on Formula E's senior press officer Sam's face when I asked him if he knew where I might be able to find a soldering iron to repair the microphone myself, given that I did actually do a little bit of soldering at secondary school, so I knew roughly what I was doing. And yeah, their Mercedes' press officer Marlene was the first person I bumped into outside, and we ended up going into the pits, and yeah, they very, very kindly fixed it for me.
While you were having your microphone fixed, did you notice any volumes of sand being carted out the back of the garage?
I noticed nothing being carted out the back of the garage.
So they were putting lead in the cars then. Got it. It's harder to notice lead being put in. But this isn't... Well, it's not an entirely new team, considering this just used to be the HWA Race Lab entry that Mercedes has parachuted into.
Yes, and they still have Gary Paffett.
But he's got a very interesting role this time.
He has indeed.
He is a sporting and technical advisor, as well as a reserve and development driver for the...
Yes, which means that there is every chance that he might actually be getting a race in later this season.
Where? For who?
For Mercedes.
Oh, but for who? Who's he replacing?
He would be replacing the new driver in the team, the current Formula 2 champion, Nick de Vries.
Huh. Well, where would he be flashing?
Because de Vries races in WEC for Racing Team Nederland.
Of course, yes, for the Jumbo car, yes.
And the Jumbo car with Frits van Eerd and Guido van der Garde. Unless Racing Team Nederland put Job van Uytert in the car instead, which could be another option.
Well, it's possible. He's due a race because he wasn't at Shanghai.
Because Van Uytert's going to be bumped up to a gold, although for the purposes of the World Endurance Championship...
Driver ratings do not change over the season.
They don't change. So he'd still be a silver. Oh, God, just imagine that as a driver lineup, actually. This is going off topic already, but De Vries, Van Uytert and Van der Garde.
Yes, but bringing it back to Nick de Vries, he is the addition at Mercedes.
Very well spoken, I can confirm.
Replacing Gary Paffett, but he's still there.
Yep.
There is another addition to the team with another reserve and test driver in the form of Esteban Gutierrez, who carries over from the F1 program.
Ah, yes. Would that be Mr. Esteban Gutierrez?
Sure.
Yes. That's
the man who is the new record holder at Sonoma in an F1 car.
That must have been quite a lap, and also quite scary, I'd imagine.
Well, if he was a little cleaner, he would have had a faster lap. But putting that one aside,
Yes.
turns out Mercedes know a thing or two about making a fast single-seater, because they were on the podium both races.
Yes, thanks to Mr. Stoffel Van Dorn.
No, that would be Stiffy Van Dormeers to you.
Yes, of course, absolutely. It's also worth noting that the boss of the team is Ian James, the head of Mercedes High Performance Powertrains.
Yes, and also Franco Chiocchetti, who came over from being Lucas Degrassi's engineer.
Yes, Mercedes clearly have taken this as seriously as they needed to, and it's already paying off as well.
Almost as if quitting DTM was a really good idea. Yeah, but Stoffel Van Dorn was, ironically, he liked being third, because he was on that step of the podium in both races.
He was indeed, yes.
Yeah, he was super glued to that, apparently. But Nick de Vries was sixth in race 1, so Mercedes scored very good amount of points in that race. And unfortunately, de Vries in the second race was a victim of more penalties.
Yes, and the unbridled joy, which was the race results for that second race.
Yes, but the Mercedes effort is very much competent, and unfortunately, we're getting to the bottom of the results, which means we won't find much competency here.
Well, apart from the very, very, very bottom, because they're a new team, but...
Allegedly. This being the land of dragons,
winter is coming.
They're not very fire-breathing, these dragons. They're kind of like wimpy old dragons. Anyway, it's Geox Dragon here.
Yes.
And the Penske EV4.
And two completely new drivers as well, in Brendan Hartley and Nico Mueller, who was very much looking forward to competing in Formula E. When I spoke to him in Valencia.
Look, another boring livery on the car, but
to be fair, it's more black and white than black, white, and red.
You've just eliminated one color, but you've just made it somewhat hard to see. So yeah, it's also another horrendous work of Sean Bull, because there you go.
Yeah. I should point out at this stage that these are solely Forza's views and do not necessarily reflect those of anyone else associated with the GTHub podcast.
No, it's the views of all the GTHub podcast members that Sean Bull design is terrible.
I'm just saying that for legal reasons.
Yes. True. There you go. See, I've just been told that it's fine. There you go. I'm fine.
They were mighty quick in testing, especially Mueller. Actually, I've just realised we've spelt it Mueller instead of Mueller.
Still better than anything else, but anyway.
Because I don't have umlauts, but oh dear. I've made a mess of that.
Anyway, we have all change in the lineup with the number 6 of Brendan Hartley and the number 7 of Nico Mueller, and well, they were fast in testing, but
very fast in testing in Mueller's case.
They're very fast in testing. However, in the race, not.
Yes. Well, I think the reason why Mueller was so fast in testing is because he has had about 2 years of driving Formula E cars for Audi.
Yeah, he's also an Audi DTM factory driver, so there's...
Yes.
Yeah. I think he's clashing with DTM one race, isn't he?
I believe so. Yes, I believe there is a clash or two with.
Because apparently,
that.
Formula E, he's just decided to clash with every calendar in the world for this season. So there's that. I don't know why, but there you go.
Yes.
So we're gonna have someone come in for his drive there. I actually don't know who their reserve driver is, in fairness.
Neither do I, come to think of it. So that's excellent.
But race 1 saw this, I don't know, lukewarm package that they made.
Well, Mueller didn't start.
Yeah, that's a bit of a worry. That's worse than not finishing, rather.
Yes. Though, mind you, I think he had a bit of an off earlier in the day. From memory.
He didn't start, but Brendan Hartley was 19th in the first race.
Yes, he was also given a drive-through penalty converted. Oh no, so that was Ma Qinghua. He got a 10-second penalty, sorry.
No, sorry, you're confusing someone of quality with someone of not quality.
Yes, but someone who would still be better than I would be in a Formula E car.
Sure about that one?
Yes, I'm quite certain, because at least he'd actually be able to drive a Formula E car, whereas I don't have much in the way of upper body strength, and I'd be lucky to even get out the sodding pits.
There you go, then. Hartley had a horrible race and was 19th. Unfortunately, that meant no points for them in race 1. Race 2 saw Hartley salvage 2 points in 9th. But that was thanks to the massive amount of penalties. But Brendan Hartley got 2 points. That's all that matters.
And Mueller retired 2 laps from the end.
Yeah, unfortunately that. So he had a horrible weekend, but at least they had points to show for their efforts, unlike the next team on the list, which is, well, where do we even begin, Rob?
Oh, God. Where do you want me to start?
You want to talk about changes? Oh, all the changes were in one team.
Yes, including most of the senior management as well.
And the livery, and the name, and the powertrain.
Yes, and the...
where it's located.
Yep. Everything had changed for the Neo 333 Formula E team and the Neo FE-005.
Which immediately needs some explanation, because the team name has changed thanks to Neo no longer owning the team, but still being a sponsor of the team, thus keeping the Neo name.
Yes.
And also, the Neo isn't a Neo because it's a dragon, but
and it's last season's
homologated
dragon powertrain.
Yeah, it's last season's dragon, but it's still homologated as a Neo because it was tested before homologation ended, even though that doesn't work. Anyway, getting back to the team ownership part. Neo has sold the team to something known as Shanghai Lisheng Racing Company Limited, which is a entity in China that runs. I think a program in Chinese touring cars, karting. I think they run LMP3s.
LMP3s run by FRD.
Sorry, wrong entity, but they have a bunch of things in China that they run and race. The Neo 333 team name is reflecting local Shanghai dialect that means race and competition. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say. So there you go. As a result of them buying the team, they are now the major stakeholder, or the majority stakeholder, and they have a new young driver academy in China. Neo's just a sponsor.
The powertrain's a year old.
Yeah. The powertrain. Oh dear, I don't know.
Yeah, it's last year's Dragon powertrain, basically.
They basically decided we're going to be a customer, but we're going to have the worst powertrains on the. Yeah.
Yes.
They have Season 5's motors and inverters, and they were supposed to run their own package, but they realized our package is so bad, we're going to take the least worst package.
Yes. I mean, the fact that Oliver Turvey managed to qualify in the top 10
was a minor miracle.
Race. I mean, okay, yeah, I know he had some of the best of the track conditions, but yeah, it was an absolute miracle that he qualified as high up as he did.
Like I said, it was a minor act of God that he got up that far.
Yes. It was quite something to behold. I mean, the thing is with Turvey, though, a lot of the other drivers have actually said on the record that if he had a better car underneath him and was driving for one of the top teams, he would be fighting for race wins and championships. He is that good as a driver.
Yes, unfortunately, he's stuck with the worst car and team on the grid.
Yes. And if there's any points going to be scored, they're probably going to be coming from him, with all due respect.
Not probably. They will be coming from him.
Unless another minor act of God happens.
Well, unless it's a Robert Kubica's situation, yeah.
God, yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the team management. We mentioned that Mahindra changed its team structure because its former technical partner left. Well, this is where their former technical partner has gone, because QEV Technologies has taken a formal stakeholding of around 10% of the Neo team after taking on operational control of them. And they've also embedded Mahindra's former engineers Juan Oris and Andreas Castillo into the team.
Oh, yes.
So I hope they like standing at the back of the garage, because that's what they're gonna do. I don't even know how to sugarcoat this.
You can't.
Yeah, Oliver Turvey was 15th in race 1. Ma Xinghua was 20th.
And then in race 2, Ma Xinghua, at one point, it looked as if was going to actually score points.
Oh, no. You're forgetting Ma Xinghua had like 7,000 penalties in race 2.
Yes. He got a 5 seconds penalty for steward's decision number 28, and the reason why he was as far up the field as he was because he was also one of the drivers who was implicated in the mess that was the first safety car restart. And thus got a drive-through penalty converted into a 24-second time penalty.
Which meant he was 19th.
Yes, and last.
However, Oliver Turvey was in the points.
Initially, yes. But that was the only high point we could ever say about their entry. right up to the precise moment that steward's decision number 39 popped up into the notice board. And he was disqualified.
He was disqualified, yes.
Yes.
For using too much energy. So all that hard work he did, gone. And that means Neo is reflectively the back of the grid. As they should be. So there you go. And now we go to very much the last team on the preview, but very much not the last team in terms of pace, because
no, because the only reason why they're last is because they didn't actually compete last year.
No, they did a nice job of spending all their time testing all day long, though.
Yes,
and that being the the Tag Heuer Porsche Formula E team.
And and their Porsche 99 X Electric.
Which is a stupid.
I mean, there might be 99 problems, but a lack of pace ain't one.
There you go.
And now watch as we get sued by Jay-Z.
No, we didn't use his song, so it's fine. Yet another similar looking livery that is boring because it's a Porsche factory livery, because all Porsche factory liveries are just boring. Well, they'll be boring from the end of time now. Well, the new corporate ones now are. So
yeah. I was going to say, also, that photograph was taken purely by accident.
Well, it's technically a Porsche factory livery. It's just kind of not seen very well on the car. But
yes,
that's also a trademark of Porsche factory liveries now. They have to be seen from space to make any sense.
Yes, and I would also like to point out within about half an hour of that photo being taken, the car was actually on its way back to the pits on a low loader.
What, you're saying doing a big smoky burnout breaks cars? Oh, I'm shocked.
No, it was because the chicane on the pit straight at Valencia had claimed yet another victim.
Almost as if they shouldn't be testing at Valencia.
Yes. Yes, it would be nice if they actually visited a circuit for pre-season testing that wasn't in the literal backwards arse end of nowhere, and meant that the majority of us were having to get a sodding taxi to the circuit when it's like €30 each way.
Other quality Spanish tracks are available.
Yes, can we just go to Catalonia instead next year, please? Just because at least
they really should
there is
be testing at Castellet. That one.
Just somewhere where there's a race circuit that's actually got, some form of an urban conurbation around it, and a hotel that's actually, nearby, and we don't have to spend God knows how much on taxis next year. Please, it's all we ask for.
And this has been the GTHub soapbox powered by Boost Energy for Rob's rant about travels. So there you go.
Powered by the fact that I did actually have to miss the very start of the first session on Wednesday because I was actually looking for a cash point to get even more cash out to cover the next batch of taxi fares.
This has also been part 2 of the GTHub soapbox, fueled by Rob's tears.
No, that was your rant about the liveries.
No! See,
when we were making
this, I can't be bothered. Yeah, no, I can't be bothered by this anymore. Anyway, Rob, we're getting back to the point.
Beautiful to witness.
Yes, you're getting back to the point, though.
Yes.
That being the Porsche electric thing that is, shouldn't be a thing, but is a thing. But anyway, we have the number 18 of Neil Yanni, who has Formula E experience. One race of Formula E experience.
Two races, technically. It's one weekend in Hong Kong when Hong Kong was a doubleheader.
Oh, right. Sorry. Well, 2 races of experience, but he was with the horrible dragon, so it might as well not have happened at all.
Yes, which also is the reason why that Porsche didn't take over the dragon.
Well, I mean, in fairness, if you had to buy an entry, would you buy a dragon? I would not buy a dragon. But anyway...
Well, that's just the story I've heard. I should
allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. And the second car, the car in the photo, is driven by the second half of Giandre, that being one Mr. Andre Lotterer.
Yes, another man with massive amounts of FE experience. Also,
and just the 4 Le Mans wins.
Yeah, I was going to say Neil Yanni and Andre Lotterer, between the two of them, are actual world champions and Le Mans winners. So,
I think there's only about, 5 Le Mans wins between them?
Something like that.
I think that's about the same as what Jackie X managed by himself.
Yeah, it's quite an achievement between the two of them. So it's a good handy driver lineup. Also handy driver lineups, we get to the really interesting test and reserve drivers that Porsche have signed.
Yes. One of them being one Mr. Thomas Preining, who's more known for his exploits in GT cars, and the other being Simona Di Silvestro.
Yes, the Iron Maiden and Swiss Miss and all the good names that you want to throw her name. Simona Di Silvestro is back in Formula E and back in single seaters where she belongs.
Yes.
Not racing horrible Nissans in Australia.
And also did let slip something quite interesting to us after I asked her this at testing about if there was any chance that maybe, just maybe, we could potentially see her in IMSA on the side in a GT car.
Interesting.
Yes, and she said that nothing had been confirmed yet, but it would be something to do with Porsche.
Well, not like she has a tiny amount of choices in that regard, so there you go. The world is her oyster now.
Absolutely. The first female Porsche factory driver as well.
Yeah, that surprises me, actually. I thought there had been at least one before her, but I guess not. Which is quite an achievement for her, so there you go. One of the shocking things, though, was their, well, not shocking, but let's just say the very German thing of sandbagging, because apparently that's a theme now. Because they also were very slow in testing, but apparently had pace in the race when it mattered. Funny that.
Yes.
So that is that one with their interesting technical lineups and everything. We had, unfortunately, another tale of, well, two sides of the garage, really, because one of them was bringing home podiums and points, while the other was just not scoring. But that's not due to any fault of theirs in race 2, however, because, yeah.
Yes.
Well, Neil Yanni was 17th in race 1. Lotterer got a podium in race 2, which actually leads for an excellent statistic of race 2 being...
It was race 1.
Was it race 1?
Yeah, it was race 1.
The all-German podium?
Yeah, because Degrassi... Well, it was an all-German podium in both races, to be fair. Degrassi was on the podium in race 2.
Yeah, but Sims won race 2. Second was
Degrassi. Third was Van Dorn. Race 1 was Bird, Lotterer, Van Dorn.
Well, yeah, race 1 technically would have been a German podium, but it wasn't, because Virgin. So the race 2 was actually the official all-German podium, but the weekend was basically just German manufacturers taking all the podiums. Which is probably going to be the entirety of Formula E this season, basically.
Hence the Formula E Bundesliga. Oh, that's my steering wheel.
As Rob hits himself on his steering wheel.
Yes.
But Andre Lauder was second in race 1, or sorry, race 2 rather.
Race 1.
No,
definitely race 1.
Yes, I did it again. God damn it. I need to stop doing that. Race 1. Yanni was the one who wasn't on the podium at all. There we go. Got it. However, they both would have actually scored points in race 2 had it not been for the raft of penalties that took everyone out.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes, the absolute joy to behold, which was the classification for race 2.
Make the standings a bit interesting, though. That is for sure.
Yes.
But more on that at the end of this preview. Because now we go to calendars.
Yes, we go to calendars. So, yes, Mike, we get to look at the circuity stuff.
The circuity stuff, he says.
Yes. Because we may have some calendar stuff.
May or may not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. We can skip the first one because that's just Saudi Arabia, and that already happened.
Yes, that's already happened. Yeah. There it is.
There it is.
The pre-circuit.
There we go. This is the important one anyway.
Yes. Santiago Ypres, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Would you like to explain this one, Rob? Seeing as you have a bit more information than I do.
Yes. So, Chile was in the news recently due to a very high number of protests that had been going on the streets of Santiago and other major cities. Now, this was kicked off, if I remember correctly, by a proposed hike in metro tickets. And then it escalated from there. Now, the most recent updates from today have seen that the teams were given assurances in Aderia, and they were given more assurances from the series just this afternoon, actually, that the Ypres will go ahead. Now, the World Rally Championship Rally Chile has been cancelled as a result of the political situation in the country. That's actually not based in Santiago, that's based in Concepcion.
Right.
So, and it's still covered under the state of emergency that's in place in Chile. Now, Autosport pointed out that there were government-level concerns about spending money on bringing the World Rally Championship to the country. But Autosport understands that the Formula E event is privately funded, with the money needed to put the race on in Park O'Higgins is coming from the event organisers. Now, as of right now, as we say this, the Ypres is on at the moment, but there is, due to how fluid I think the political situation is still out there, even though it has stabilised a bit, there is a chance that it might not go ahead.
Right.
Hence the question marks, and hence why we wrote that it depends solely on the political situation in the country.
Which is why I wanted you to handle it, because I don't think it's happening. So there you go.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I did global affairs as a unit, and although I did mine on the political situation in Venezuela, that's actually still the best grades I got on any units so far.
Yeah.
Yes, although
anyway,
the proposed track layout would see changes to the turn 1 and 2 area, the turn 8, 9, 10 chicane being removed altogether, and the direction of the 2 hairpins at the end of the lap being switched, and the pit lane being moved to the other side of the big tarmac strip bit in the middle of the park just behind the arena.
It doesn't really matter though, does it?
It doesn't really matter at the moment. There's still every chance it might not happen, so yeah.
Yeah, it's not important. Move on.
Yeah. And we shall.
We go to round number 4. Which is
3.
well, yeah, 3 or 4, depending on what happens. But
yes, it's at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City, home to the mildly bonkers finish last year, where Lucas de Grassi won the race while sideways and partially off the track. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, do not ever do that again, Rob. That was horrible.
It's based around, it's actually a shortened version of the Formula 1 circuit, which is why it holds an FIA Grade 2 certification, because it uses the Formula 1 pits and the pit garages and facilities. So, but it's obviously not 3.5 kilometers long, it's 2 kilometers. So it uses a slightly modified version of the oval that I think is still used by the NASCAR Mexico series.
That in itself is strange to me, but yeah, I guess that's true.
Also includes the a slightly modified loop around the baseball stadium before rejoining the track for the first half of the Peraltada, and then a chicane into the bit where the F1 track exits the baseball stadium, and then it carries on around the rest of the Peraltada.
Well, Rob, it wouldn't be an FE track without the fiddly chicanes in the middle of nowhere for no reason.
Ah, yes.
So there you go.
Yes, it is a proper permanent racetrack.
Yeah, so there you go, Mike. That answers your question.
Yes.
Where would they go on a permanent racetrack? They already do. It's called Mexico City.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Felix. That's an acceptable answer. So they can play bumper cars. It's quite true, actually.
Well, no, it'd be a bit harder now because Jose Maria Lopez isn't racing, remember?
That didn't stop Sam Bird from flying last season.
Yes. Actually, I think that was Piquet.
No, that was Piquet Jr., sorry. No, he flew over Bird. That's what it was.
I thought he flew over Verne.
Well, whichever one. I don't know.
I mean,
he was flying, that's all I know.
He did a fairly comprehensive job of annihilating the car.
Next one, please.
Yes. And the next round is at Marrakesh.
On the Marrakesh Express, yes.
Yes, the Circuit International Automobile Moulay El Hussan. 3 kilometres long. It's the same track as what WTCR use. And also, to get back to Mike's point, this track is, well, half of it a permanent race circuit.
Yeah.
Namely the pit straight, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. And then there's a little loop section to take them back onto the pit straight.
I would argue this is actually a permanent track, but
it also meets FIA Grade 2 requirements because
thus being a permanent track.
Yes. Although the rest of it is actual public roads.
Yeah, but that's like saying Singapore is not semi-permanent when in fact it is.
Well, part of it is.
The rest when there's entire parts that aren't used anymore. Yeah.
Yes. It's a semi-permanent circuit.
There you go. That's
half of it is, half of it isn't.
Yes. Yeah, it's a pretty good layout. I like it. It's good for Formula E.
It's less good for touring cars.
Well, it's best for touring cars because there's enough room for them to crash. So there you go. Yeah, that should be interesting. Hopefully the BMWs don't crash into each other again, and then maybe they'll score points. But
yes,
moving past
a 1-2 and end up with a 4th DNF. And to answer Felix's question, Formula E uses actual pit buildings in Marrakesh, Mexico City because they're already there.
They only use tents at the city ones.
Yeah, apart from Adiria, where I think they had the pits from Zurich.
Well, that's because they stole the ones from Switzerland. So, yeah.
From Zurich, yeah. The next round is in China at Sanya.
Well, actually, we forgot to mention the reason why there's only one Chinese round is
because there was meant to be one in Hong Kong, but if anyone's actually seen the news, you'll understand that this is was quite clearly never going to happen given the current political situation.
Yes. Moving past that one, we're going to China.
Yes, to Sanya, which is twinned with Blackpool in the UK, which is amusingly something they don't really want to brag about on their website.
Wait, what?
Yes, it's twinned with somewhere in the UK, which is, well, a bit meh.
Oh, okay, fair enough. This just looks like one of those uninspired Formula E tracks. I don't know.
It's got 2 big bits of dual carriageway.
Yeah, that's why it looks so boring.
It's got hairpin at the end of one of them. It's got some other stuff.
It's just boring. It's it's basically Formula E's version of what the Vietnam Grand Prix is going to be. So there you go.
I still think Vietnam's going to be less of a disaster than Zandvoort.
Well, that might allegedly not happen, but anyway.
Yes. We come to the Rome E-Prix, the first of the rounds in Europe, and home to some of the certainly some of the most spectacular gradient changes in Formula E, especially just after turn 8, where the cars are actually getting airborne. And there's a lot of people asking what the fuck this is. I don't know. I don't design the circuits. Yes, although the turn 16, 17, 18, 19 chicane, dear.
It's not even a chicane at that point. It's four corners making a square. Yeah.
It's a chicane. So what's I don't really.
As far as I remember the track layout, I think the pits actually are on the other side of a city block. In fairness,
this is, and I think the reason why. I need to. Yeah, that chicane at 16, 17, 18, 19, I personally don't like. But then again, well, what other options have they got?
They could, for starters, actually do it, not race there, but there you go.
Although, to be fair, the rest of the circuit is a good circuit. The gradients down the hill from the exit of turn 2 to turn 5, and then the uphill section from the exit of turn 6 to turn 9 are pretty steep, actually. There's a decent bit of elevation there.
It does make me laugh that Formula E tracks are, to my mind, the only racetracks that have start and finish points at different parts of the track.
To be fair, Formula 1 did.
Did they?
Yeah, in Sweden when they raced at Anderstorp.
No, only you would remember that.
The pits were on one side of one part of the track, and the start-finish line was quite literally at the opposite end.
Yes, well, this is the Rome E-Prix at the Circuito Cittadino del Ur, so there you go.
Ur being the district of Rome where the circuit is, and might saying just make a longer pit entry zone. Well, it is a street circuit. You are inherently limited.
They don't need the pits anyway. They don't need pits. Yeah, moving on.
It's a street circuit. You are inherently limited by what is already there. I mean, you can't simply just knock down, say, I don't know, a couple of buildings just for the sake of building a pit lane. You can't do that.
Well, I mean,
you won't get the planning permission.
They don't need the pits. That's fine. Moving on. And now we go to Paris. If you want to see pointless pit lane, there you go. That's a pointless pit lane.
I've actually been in that pit lane as well.
It's also very pointy and pointless. There you go.
Yes. I also have the date of my first trip there permanently on my right leg.
Oh yeah, I forgot I got a tattoo of that.
Yes, because I have it tattooed. Yes, it's one of the shorter and more technical circuits on the calendar.
I actually like the Paris circuit. It's pretty good.
It's the lap record's actually still held by Nick Heidfeld because they couldn't break the record last year with the new cars because of the rain.
Was also torrential rain. So
yes, it was mildly moist, I would say.
Putting it mildly, yes.
Yes, it is definitely a mild. It was absolute, complete and utter carnage.
Yes, well, that's the Paris E-Prix along the cobblestone streets of Paris. So there you go. Right in front of the FIA offices, I think. So there you go.
It's actually around Les Invalides, which is the bit where Napoleon's tomb is. And I think actually the building where Napoleon's tomb is also where the press room is as well.
Yeah. So
it's absolutely cavernous place.
And moving past Paris.
We are off to
another pointless track. Yay!
Well, is it pointless? We haven't actually had a race there yet.
It looks pretty pointless to my mind. It's just straight lines.
It looks
everywhere.
Okay.
They even robbed Mexico City of their track inside
USP.
Yes.
Instead of actually having a section in a baseball stadium, they're using the stadium from the 1988 Summer Olympics.
Boring. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm interested to see at how this one turns out first. It's in May 2020. We've got a little bit of time left.
This is just a clash with WEC. That's all.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. That was Sanya.
Was that
Sanya was the one? Yes, Sanya was the one that clashed with Sebring.
Oh, sorry. No, Seoul was the reason why they had a clash in the first place, because they couldn't move the date. That's what it was.
Yes, which is why we're going from Europe back to Asia.
Yes, because freighting costs makes sense.
Yes.
It looks kind of interesting, but it's just a really big square leading into a tiny little track that's like Mexico City. So, yeah.
What the fuck is that arena section? We honestly don't know yet because we haven't had a race there.
This is just me putting my cynical hat on again. A ploy to get South Korean manufacturers involved in the series, but it ain't gonna happen. So there you go.
Yes.
Right, very much how they're still, speaking of things that aren't going to happen, welcome to Jakarta.
Yes. We don't actually have an official track layout, so we just used a photo of the National Monument, which was literally the first one we could...
they gave you. Yes.
No, it was literally, I think, the first photo we could find of the National Monument on Google Images. Yeah. Nothing has been made official regarding the track layout. No official track layout has been provided. I think one's been leaked, but that's it. It looks wide enough.
It's just a money laundering scheme. Moving on.
Jesus. Going full send it, why don't you? Bloody hell.
Well, I mean, Anyway, moving past Jakarta, there's literally nothing to talk about because we don't know anything about it. So.
Yeah, it's supposed to be on the 6th of June.
It's never happening.
Whether it happens or not,
it's not happening.
Fuck knows, quite frankly.
This is like the Miami Grand Prix and the New Jersey Grand Prix,
and the Boston IndyCar round.
Oh yeah, and the Boston IndyCar round.
Yes,
basically, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's got as much chance of happening as all of those, quite frankly. Yeah. Right, moving on.
Look, a proper thing that actually exists.
Oh, yes, Tempelhof in Berlin. What can I say? It's a nice location. It's a nice location. I mean, it's actually on the concrete apron, so they've got space to make a good quality circuit, and it is.
Imagine having a blank piece of paper to do what you want. Yes,
you're right. It is literally a blank canvas for them. I mean, I think there were talks at one point about having a DTM round on the apron at Tempelhof.
They should have. It would have been brilliant.
I tell you
all
what,
that space.
It probably wouldn't take much to actually lengthen the circuit.
I mean, they only use not even half of it, so yeah.
I know, and also the press room is literally right on the outside of turn 9 as well. So because there's obviously a camera delay, so they've got enough time when a radio message comes through to warn the commentators that, okay, someone's sworn on the radio. It means that from the press room, we can actually see everything that happens at turn 9 about 2 or 3 seconds before it comes up on the TV screens in the press room. Yeah, it's a cool track. It's in a super cool city. It's not actually being held on the day of the cup final this year either.
Almost as if they realized that was a bad idea.
To be fair, the reason why it was held on the day of the cup final was because of the TV broadcaster, because it's broadcast on free-to-air. So the main public service broadcaster in Germany would broadcast the women's cup final, then they'd go over from the Olympiastadion to Tempelhof, Formula E, and then they'd go back to the Olympiastadion for the men's cup final, DFB Pokal. Last year, they had some of the sessions on the Friday because of the scheduling, which meant that they would have the Formula E first of all in the afternoon, then the Women's Cup final, then the Men's Cup final. So it was all due to TV, which dictated the schedule. But now it's the week after Le Mans and also the weekend of Graspop Metal Meeting as well. Which is very much to one's chagrin, I must add, because I've been meaning to go to Graspop for quite some time now. And I think I'm actually due to, and I think there's plans for a uni field trip to Berlin around March. I mean, what can possibly go wrong there?
Scrimpy says he's disappointed that Berlin makes you miss Graspop, but
unless I just book tickets for Graspop.
Yes, and moving past Graspop and Germany, we come to another point.
New York.
Stupid track. It's not New York.
It's, to be fair, as a circuit,
close to New York, but it's not.
To be fair though, as a circuit,
it's just a bunch of 90-degree corners.
It's actually not that bad a track, I don't think.
Rob, I don't like my street circuits to be 90-degree corners every turn. It's just boring.
It's not 90-degree corners every turn. Turn 8's not 90-degree corner.
I count 1, 2, 3, 4,
okay.
5.
Well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
You want to keep counting? That's half of the track.
I mean, to be fair, turn 12 is not a 90-degree corner, nor is turn 13, so...
Good job, you found 2 that weren't.
And so's turn 10, and turn 7, and turn 8, and turn 1, and turn 5.
Yes, I know Brooklyn is in New York City, but who wants to be in Brooklyn? You want to be in Manhattan. That's what you want to be in New York City. But
yes,
they are in
Manhattan
the Docklands. They are in the Docklands of Brooklyn with New York City in the background. They literally did the Bernie Ecclestone plan of racing in New York City, going, we just put up a green screen and have Manhattan in the background. That's what they've done.
And Forza is just getting down off his soapbox as we speak, powered by Boost Energy, of course.
Of all places in the US to go, they went, we're going to go to Brooklyn and we're going to race on a dock instead of going to Long Beach where they actually had a track. And, I don't know, a built-in audience with people that would pay to go there. But there you go.
To be fair, though, it's not the first track built in a dock, because the Swedish Touring Car Championship used to race on a dock in Gothenburg. That actually would make a half-decent Formula E circuit, come to think of it.
It's New York City. It's probably going to be a double-header because Chile ain't happening, so there you go.
Yes. It's only one race at the moment, but who knows? It might be 2.
It's going to be a double-header. But moving past New York, we come to Rob's favorite track because he can actually go report from there live.
Well, I can report from Paris live.
You know.
Yes, London, the one where I'm inevitably going to get the wrong DLR train at Canning Town and end up in Woolwich by accident.
Yes. Also check out obscure English reference there.
Yes, and this is the track at the XL Arena in London. As you can see, yes, the pit straight is, and the first few corners are actually inside the exhibition centre. Although, having been to XL for the 2012 Paralympics, I can confirm that place is freaking huge, and thus there is definitely genuinely enough space to have part of a race circuit going through it. Since the original track was... Oh, this is the improved version, Felix. The original version had the hairpins going the other way around, and then another Mickey Mouse chicane bit.
I will point out, half of this track actually goes up a ramp, which is just brilliant to me, but yeah.
Yes. And then it actually goes through part of a loading area, and then goes onto the road round, I think, a roundabout or something. In fact, it actually covers 2 DLR stations on the Docklands Light Rail for those wanting to get to the circuit, and then it has another couple of corners, and then goes back into the circuit, into the arena rather. Exhibition centre, rather. Okay, I'll get there eventually.
It's might be good. I don't know. It should be interesting.
The track looks as if it's got a few decent overtaking spots. Turn 15, turn 10, turn 1.
I'm curious about turn 10 and 11. That looks like a place where everyone's just going to crash.
And Alex Sims provided possibly one of the best quotes from what I heard from a fellow journalist. About this, saying that he'd already actually been to the Excel Exhibition Centre because he'd been to the Ideal Home Show there.
Nice.
Or something like that. It was something along the lines of that. Yes. It's the first E-Prix in London since good old Battersea Park.
Was that even in London, though?
Yes, Battersea Park is central London.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it.
It didn't look like it, but it genuinely is in London. It's right next to the River Thames.
Oh, okay. It didn't look like it from the TV pictures. That's what I was like, is it really?
Yes, it is. I have been there. I've walked the circuit. It is. I actually attended one of the races there. It is genuinely London.
All right. Well, there you go.
It was also quite narrow, and the only reason why they stopped racing there after 2 seasons is because
they banned
the locals. Yes, all of the locals were moderately pissed off, shall we say? In fact, moderately pissed off to the point that it damn near got cancelled. Unless Hag promised that it would. Alejandro Hag, the boss of Formula E, promised it would be the last E-Prix in London. So.
And yes, that will conclude that one because that's the final 2 rounds of the season, and that's a doubleheader to close that out. So.
Yes.
With the calendar coming to a close, I will point out Alexander Sims is leading the points on 35. And the team standings are being led by... my timing thingy opens here.
Let's see.
Being led by Mercedes-Benz EQ Formula E team with 38 points ahead of Envision Virgin on 36 and BMW Andretti with 35.
So Mercedes are position 1 in the Formula E Bundesliga.
Yes, of course.
Excellent.
And also, happy birthday to Florida Man who's listening.
Yes, happy birthday. And happy Thanksgiving to all our American listeners too.
And also, because Rob made me leave this in, there you go.
Yes.
A friendly reminder to buy some GTHub merch.
Yes, the link in the description. And yes, that is me proudly repping GTHub because I only rep the finest brands in the press room at Valencia with my lanyard on as well.
And on this note, buy some swag and we'll see you next time.
Yes. And also thanks to Santhia, Skyplane, and Forza for helping create the PowerPoint.
Yes, it was our pleasure.
Yes. Absolutely. And that was a very, very long evening where I nowhere near enough sleep as what I should have had.
Also, thanks to Dan for streaming.
Yes, thanks, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.